Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about 2005's King Kong.
He's a king. He's Kong. We've been on a MonsterVerse kind of vibe. We just did Godzilla / Kong, the new Empire, as we know that it is for sure called.
Definitely. We did that last week.
We're not doubtful at all.
No doubts in our voice. We did that last week on the pod, continuing our Kong vibes, our King of Skull Island vibes. We're talking about 2005 Peter Jackson's King Kong this week on the podcast.
It's known for Lord of the Rings and pretty much just this. Peter didn't have... You really just...
Don't forget about the Frighteners.
Oh, you know what? I did forget about the Frighteners. And then the weird Beatles thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Weird Beatles thing.
Yeah. But I choose to think about the Frighteners. It's been a while since I watched that, though. Don't know if it holds up, so don't quote me on my enthusiasm about the Frighteners. Don't listen to my enthusiasm. Go watch and be like, this is actually wildly problematic. I have not rewatched it in some time. I have no modern context for it, but I remember Peter did a good job with the Frighteners.
All right. Would you like to put a little asterisk on the write-up and the show notes of this episode to be like, Andrew can't remember what happened in the Frighteners?
I feel like I verbally laid down the whole vibes.
You have really done a great job.
So we're going to be talking about that today on the podcast. Before we do talk about King Kong,
we have a quick announcement, or more, I have a quick announcement. I think I have not talked about this on the podcast at all. I have a book coming out.
Yay!
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Yay!
Thank you. Oh, sincerely, thank you. Not a joke, thank you, sincerely. It's a very fun book. It is called Sex Lives of Superhero, Wolverine's Immortal Sperm, Superman's Porn Career, The Thing's Thing, and Other Super Sexual Matters Explained. It is a comedic and scientific look at how superpowers would affect the sex lives of the heroes that have them. So it is, if you ever read my Cracked articles, it's very crazy facts mixed with really funny jokes. And you know me, I got funny jokes about superheroes.
And if you were reading Diana's Cracked articles, you've been on this ride for a minute.
I've got a few articles about this topic.
But if someone has come with you from Cracked a decade ago to your podcast now,
They've been waiting.
You should pre-order this book because you are a hardcore Diana head.
Thank you to the hardcore Diana heads out there. But if you're just hearing about it, it's distributed by Penguin Random House. I don't know how they put their words together, but Penguin Random House. It's coming out in November. You can pre-order it now. So if you want to know things like, is Spider-Man's sperm radioactive enough to kill Mary Jane? You can find that out. If you want to know if Supergirl's vaginal steel walls would allow a human to have sex with her, you can find that out. There's a really fun chapter about like sex ed in the 1920s where I discuss like what Captain America actually thinks sex is, because that's when he was educated about sex, and I think that chapter is wildly fun. There is every hero you love is in there with a weird or cool sex story.
And it is called, once again...
It is called Sex Lives of Superheroes, is the short version that you just have to type in.
That's all you need.
It's all you need. So I researched scientific studies. I talked to several doctors, which was very fun. They were very helpful. Referenced psychology, physics. It's all in there. It's facts. It's fun. It's superhero sex lives. If you want to pre-order it, you can find all the links, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookshop.org, at FromSuperheroes.com/sexlives. All the pre-order links are right there for you, and there'll be that link in the show notes as well.
FromSuperheroes.com/sexlives.
That's the link.
Sex Lives is so exciting.
Thank you.
A book.
It's a book. It's a real book. It was very fun to write. It was really, really interesting to learn about. I think it's really going to be a fun read for everyone. It's available in November. You can pre-order now.
Pre-order it right now. Pre-orders are important.
Pre-orders are really important. Make my book blow up, you guys.
Yeah. Also, that's
my
like
spot.
A fun little like holiday gift for yourself that you will forget about. That's one of my favorite things about pre-orders.
It is a really fun gift to yourself. November's a great time. Gift for yourself. Gift for someone you know.
And also, right now is the time when it's like, I can afford a little something for myself. And then like
that early money.
Later, like when it starts getting towards the end of the year, it's like, I don't know if I got that extra money to spend for myself. But like you can give yourself a little treat later, right now, and it's all good.
A little treat never hurt nobody.
Yeah, from superheroes.com/sexlives. So exciting.
Very exciting. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Thanks for listening to me talk about it.
And now let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about 2005's King Kong. right. We have seen 2005's King Kong. I believe neither of us for the first time.
No, I saw it when it came out.
Same here. I saw it when it came out, and I believe I also saw it on HD DVD.
Oh wow! As it was meant to be seen.
Hey, it was how Peter wanted it to be seen.
That's totally fair. In the day, we didn't know what was gonna win.
This was like the big.
This was the big HD.
This was the big swing for it. Was like it's Blu-rays versus HD DVD, and I remember because I worked at a Future Shop at the time, which is Canadian Best Buy for our American listeners, or at least was before it got purchased by Best Buy and then closed down overnight with all of the employees laid off because everyone should unionize. But I was
second asterisk for our episode notes.
Second asterisk, always unionize, and if they tell you don't need to unionize, that means they're getting ready to lay you off. Which was the exact same thing the Future Shop told everyone when they were purchased by Best Buy. It was like, we're not going to lay off our Canadians. We're just opening Best Buys for no particular reason. Don't worry about it. And then literally one morning, they told no one, and just everyone across Canada showed up to work, and the doors couldn't unlock and never did, and everyone just went home. So that's a fun thing. But I worked at a Best Buy, and it was HD DVD versus Blu-ray, and this was the big dick swinging. It is King Kong. That's the push for HD DVD, and I think Blu-ray was like Black Hawk Down was the check out Black Hawk Down. I think it was just the tech demo of look at the sound, look at the visuals type. It was less about the movie and more about
but Black Hawk Down is a movie that I watch, and the visuals are they're so good and they're so invisible.
I see what you're
But then
saying.
I watch King Kong and I'm like, that ape's not real.
That's very visible.
I know what you did
Yeah.
CG-wise.
I see what you're saying there.
And that's my thoughts.
But King Kong, I remember seeing it in theaters on HD DVD. We saw it just now. Diana, did you like it?
This is a very well-made movie that I did not like. No, it is really long. It's really boring. There's 30 minutes in the middle that's actually fun in an insane way that is kind of redeemable, but the rest of it is a little bit problematic. I don't like anybody. I'm not rooting for anyone. It's a weird tragedy, but not in a way that makes me feel good or I've learned a lesson. It just gets wildly dark for 10 minutes. And then it's oh, that didn't happen. It's just got mood shifts and it doesn't know what it wants to say and it sits way too long in some scenes. I was just not enthralled at all with King Kong. Sorry, Peter. I love Lord of the Rings so much and I think this kind of sucks. Did not really enjoy it except for some dinosaur stuff in the middle. That's my quick take on King Kong 2005. Yes. Andrew, did you like King Kong?
No, I didn't like it. This is so close to something.
Isn't it though? It is.
I respect that it swings for a few things. There are definitely some artistic choices here where I'm like, you almost did that. And then they just never quite stick to it enough or think it through and I actually feel that part of the reason why I don't like this, there's a lot of stuff in here that it's that could work, that's a big swing, and it just feels like it doesn't have the long-term planning or forethought where everything complements one another, where it's just some stuff where it's well, that doesn't complement the last thing, or this effect, while technically executed properly, imposes itself in a weird way that fucks up the story. So just some things getting in one another's way, and just nothing really sticks the landing. There's a lot of leaving the pommel horse, triple backflip, and landing on your knees. It is just never sticks the landing.
I like that.
Is kind of how I would describe this movie. So some ambitious stuff, some stuff that I respect, some good performance decisions, some good visual effects, some bad visual effects. But nothing that it does really sticks the landing for what it attempts.
It doesn't stick the landing, but it doesn't really fail a whole lot of places, I think, except for its length and pacing. Every shot I'm this is well directed. The CG for 2005 does look really great. There are some actors and performers who I think are really, really great in this, and then some weird choices. But yeah, it's I like this doing a triple backflip and landing on your knees when you're not supposed to. Maybe if you were supposed to, superhero landing,
superhero landing, single knee.
But no, you were supposed to do it like a gymnast. You weren't even supposed to have a little flutter.
A triple backflip landing on your ankles. It is just a oh, you did not at all stick the landing, but boy, you went for it up there.
You were high. You got some lift.
There was a triple dinosaur fight. You really went for it up there.
There was. I didn't expect the third T-Rex.
I didn't expect a third dinosaur. Then you landed right on your ankles. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I respect the ambition, but it just falls on slightly on the boring side of interesting for me.
Where should we start on this exploration of King Kong 2005? I mean, he doesn't show up for an hour 20, so I feel like we can't talk about Kong off the top.
No.
We got to build the anticipation, apparently.
Let's start with that first act then, because like this movie, it's 3 hours long. The first hour is just they don't even make it to the island. The first hour is just kind of set building and world building to be like, this is Depression era New York. We are seeing a struggling actor. We are seeing a manipulative director producer, and we're establishing all these characters and setting up the premise for 1 hour in a pace that doesn't quite work in a Depression era New York, but trying some stuff again that gets close to working. How do you feel about this opening?
I think the first hour is such a mess. I think the first hour is just like nothing. Like when you look back on it, it's like it's 3 hours long and they spend an hour on like backstory and establishing these characters. And yet one of the first monologues in this is some dude we never meet again telling Naomi Watts her backstory. It's this old guy from the vaudeville theater being like, I know you don't like to hope for things, and I'm the only family you have, and because when you love something, it usually goes away, and that's about you specifically, but we won't get into any more details. And also, this is my last scene. Goodbye. And I just think that's so sloppy. You have a 3-hour movie, and you couldn't let her at least say her own exposition.
Yeah.
And then I don't know why Jack Black doesn't have funding, why he can't just go, why he can't just get the fuck out of here instead of taking half an hour to get on a boat.
Instead of being a scamp about it for the whole time. I mean,
instead of kidnapping people like Adrian Brody, which is basically what he does to this man.
Yeah. He does a good job of playing a scamp. Jack Black is very well cast as a scampable.
No problems with Jack Black. He is making such a terrible character likable and charming.
Yeah.
So all the love in the world to Jack Black. It's the writing and the pacing.
It is the writing and where I will say that this kind of opening section comes close to doing something cool is that it's trying to, and it's a hair away. It's in this uncanny valley isn't the right word, but in this like in-between phase where it's not reality. It's not a period piece. This isn't like, even though this is taking place during the Great Depression, like this isn't a historical period piece in the way that you would see like an Oscar bait period piece done, where it's like, we're trying to do it of the time and as people would have spoke, and we're doing it very dramatically. And it's almost trying to be done like the way a musical would do a heightened version of a period piece.
Okay.
And it feels like, and I think that there's something close to working there, that it is about a theatrical actor, and it is done as if it is a stage play. Like, this is talking about making a movie the way the producers talks about making a play, where it exists in a wildly heightened version of it. Like, they're doing a version of Depression-era New York that is an impression of a golden age of cinema movie about that era, about making a movie. Like, it's a flavor of a flavor, and it's so close to being a choice. Like, it's close to being like The Rocketeer or like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, where it's like, we are doing something that is kind of like a wink and a nudge. We know that this actually isn't how stiffly anyone talked at the time, but it's how movies about that time had people stiffly talk. Like, it's close to a wink and a nudge, I think.
I just don't feel that vibe,
No?
to be totally honest. I want to give this to you, and I just don't feel it. To me, it just feels like we want it to be Depression era, but we're going to give everyone such nice clothes because we don't want them to look shitty. And like, people are talking kind of stiff because Peter Jackson just did Lord of the Rings, and that's how those characters talked, but that was a high fantasy. Like, it just doesn't feel like, I don't get those vibes at all. I wish I did. That's a nice idea. And then also, like, so much happens in this opening that doesn't pay off. Like, you know, she's got gumption and she wants to be an actress, so she's following this producer around. And then at the end, she's, like, in a chorus line, and she's not even in her writer boyfriend's play being a real actress. None of it comes together, so it's all just wasting our time. I don't like this first hour in any way. The only economy of storytelling they do that's really good is the super fast introduction of Adrian Brody and getting him to the island.
Yes.
That part they do great. So I don't know why Jack Black and Naomi Watts take so long to get all their shit together. Because we get to the ship, Adrian Brody's already there waiting to give these pages to Jack Black, and he gets suckered into going along.
That's a perfect
so fast
setup.
And good.
That, like, we've established Jack Black is a bit of a scamp and a scoundrel. Someone's waiting to get their money, and they're on the boat that's already leaving.
And Jack Black, like, killing time by writing checks wrong. He's like, I got the date wrong. Oh, I filled in the money wrong. Perfect scene setting, perfect, like, tone, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of character building. It really, like, scamps him into staying onto the ship. And then they even have a nice moment that, like, it's one of the only moments where there was a logic fault that they called attention to, because he, like, doesn't jump off the boat. Adrian Brody is, like, 3 feet away from the dock and could easily get back to New York instead of going to Singapore where he thinks he's going. But he doesn't jump. He's like, I guess I'm going to Singapore. And Jack Black even comes out and has a nice line. He's like, if you really did want to be at the theater right now, you would have jumped into the water. You were 3 feet from the dock.
Yeah, if you really loved theater.
Yes, if you really loved theater.
Yeah, and I'm like, there's an argument to be made that it's like, maybe he probably likes theater more, but he still didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
it's still wildly irresponsible and unsafe to jump in next to a moving boat, a moving cruise liner.
Yeah, that has, like,
in New York.
Fins.
Yeah.
Propellers, perhaps, is the word I wanted.
Yeah, in a harbor, in one of the most wildly polluted waterways in the world.
I mean, it's like the dock's right there.
The docks, you're still diving into one of the most wildly polluted waterways in the world, and I think the height of it as well. So that's not great.
It's not great. But
That's not great.
The first hour to me is just wildly boring and doesn't connect to anything.
I really fully agree with that. As much as I say that, like, there's almost something here, it requires some rework to be like, it is almost in a heightened sense of reality where it's like some people if it heightened the dial a little bit, some people wouldn't get it. Like, some people wouldn't get that it was a wink and a nudge and be like, why do people talk like this and this sucks? But it would be a decision, but it never quite gets there.
It never quite gets there, but it is, like, gorgeous, and, like, it establishes, like, the poorness quite well. And then the main characters, they won't put in shitty clothes because they refuse, so that doesn't, like, help. But, like, all the background and, like, the scene setting is actually quite good. But yeah, the first hour is. Yeah. Let's just get to I need to see a big monkey.
Trying to set up.
I need to see a big monkey.
Need to see a big monkey. And also, I'm just not rooting for anyone at this point, which is like, you know, you're supposed to be rooting for the big monkey and not the people. But I'm spending an hour and 20 minutes with the people before we even get to the island. So I got to root for someone, and you should make me root for someone. And in reality, I'm like, this movie kind of does the opposite of its setting, where it's like, it's the Great Depression. Everyone's desperate for money, except for all of the characters you're about to meet. Because, like, Naomi Watts' character, like, Anne, is like, oh no, like, my play got shut down. I really want to be an actor. And then, like, tries to get another acting job. And the guy's like, why don't you go do burlesque? And first of all, there's nothing wrong with burlesque.
There's nothing wrong with burlesque.
But I understand that at the time it was frowned upon, or maybe she felt pushed or into doing something she's not comfortable with, which you should never feel like you have to do. But then when Jack Black, a producer, is like, would you like to be in a movie?
A real actual movie.
A real actual movie with a paycheck.
well-known producer.
And you haven't eaten in a day. And I'm offering you a real job in a movie. And she's like, I actually want to do plays. Fuck you. Absolutely fuck you. Absolutely fuck you.
The fact that she only goes because it's being written by a writer she likes?
By a playwright and not a screenwriter.
You could be feeding that poor old man from the beginning.
Yeah.
Who is apparently your family and starving to death.
You would rather watch yourself and your fellow actors die than degrade yourself to a movie because you're a theater actor. I'm like, you are a pretentious person who would rather die than be in a movie. Mm-hmm. I don't like you.
No,
I don't like you.
You don't root for her then.
I'm someone watching a movie. I'm a person who likes movies and decided to watch a movie today. I don't like that you don't like movies.
And also, I don't root for her because, in a way, they're like, she has to follow her dreams. And I'm like, I know like, being an actor is a dream, but does she want to be a comedic or a dramatic actor. Because right now she works in vaudeville and she tells everyone she's a comedian. And she's like, I'm a comedian. But Driscoll only writes serious dramatic plays and she wants to audition for a serious dramatic play. This movie is dramatic, so they cast her and she's like, I think I'll be good in it. But then once they hook up, Driscoll's like, I'm writing a comedy for you because you're a comedian. And I don't know what she wants, and I don't know what she's supposed to be, and I'm furious that they cast Naomi Watts as a comedian. The least funny woman I've ever met in my entire life. I am honestly so mad that they decided Naomi Watts, like this beautiful porcelain woman who's an incredible dramatic actor, emotes with her face in an incredible way, embodies this kind of emotion all the time, has never made anyone laugh in her goddamn life. I'm going to say.
I've never seen her in a comedy,
Yeah, like at the end when like we see the comedy Driscoll wrote for her and like an actual comedic actor is performing it, it's like Naomi Watts couldn't play this.
Yeah.
Naomi Watts could not be playing.
Or no, I think she could have,
style.
because watching that play, it was the straight person of the play.
It was, but even then, she like has to have like that old timey comedic timing that Naomi Watts could never have. Like,
Maybe.
So he held my hand and he looked me deep in the eyes, and then he didn't say he loved me. You still have to be able to sell that kind of vibe, and she absolutely could never do that. So just as a comedian, I'm furious they cast this woman as a comedian.
The other plays were right to not give her a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know why she was on the vaudeville stage. She would have been a good dramatic actress.
I mean, she was a supporting act on a vaudeville stage as well.
She was.
Yeah. And also, too, there's just something to, like, even in the Great Depression, like, being like, I'm going to turn down work because I'm an actor. It's like, you can do two things.
Yeah, you could then get another role later.
Every human actor I know in today, 2024, has a second job. They're baristas. They are servers. They're retail salespeople. They're writers. They're doing other shit, and there's no shame in doing a second thing to support your art, especially if you're literally starving today, and especially if the other job is a slightly different art form.
A slightly different form of the art you love.
A slightly different medium. So yeah, I'm immediately, and also I would say that, like, as great as fluid as the introduction of Jack Driscoll, Adrian Brody's character is like, he's already there, he wants his money. Also another dude who's like, yeah, I don't know about this like movie thing, man. I want to get back to theater. I like theater better. And it's like, I'm watching a movie.
We're people who love movies.
It feels very similar to like when we were watching Jurassic World and everyone in Jurassic World is like, dinosaurs are boring and suck. And I'm like, we're here to watch dinosaurs. You're talking to dinosaur fans. So this whole movie is just like, don't movies fucking suck? And I'm like, but we're watching one.
I actually didn't mind so much that he like wasn't as involved because when you're a little bit successful, I get that you're like, I'm writing like, this big budget movie and then like my actual love is the theater piece. I think when you're at a level where you can turn down work, it's actually more understandable. He's like, I don't actually want to work with Jack Black. He's a scamp and he sucks, but I want his money.
That's fair.
So I quite like Adrian Brody, and I think he gets introduced pretty late. I think Adrian Brody is the standout in this movie for me. He is a fucking star.
He does do a really good job.
Like, because on the surface, whenever I look at him, I'm like, Adrian Brody, you shouldn't do action movies. This doesn't seem like your vibe. And then he always nails it. He's in that Predator movie. Is it Predators?
Predators, yeah, I believe.
And he rules in that as well. And he's awesome in this as this, like, not reluctant action guy, but not a guy who's like made to be there for action reasons. He's a writer. And
works as like Depression era rakishly hero, like of that level of like, I have been sustaining off of soup for a week, but I still can kind of handle things.
I'm a survivor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I have that kind of exact bod. I'm losing a button every 20 minutes of this movie. But
those buttons were getting
fine.
looser. Yeah.
But I believe that he like really wants to save her. I believe that he like believes in this. He charms me. I fall for him. I believe everything Adrian Brody does in this movie. I think he fucking shines.
Interesting. I do agree that he shines. I think that Jack Black is the better performer in this, and he's the one who gets this movie the most.
Ooh, I would agree with that, but I think Adrian is just like got a brighter light in him.
There is a brighter light. There's a brighter light coming from Adrian, but Jack is, I think, the one person who gets what this movie is and could be. And I think that like the swaths where they're not together is where it kind of hurts for a lot of it, There is some stuff about this before they get to the island, about this first like hour and 20, that like there's a lot to talk about the visual effects of the movie. That there's some hits, there is some misses. I especially think that the visual effects before they get to the island, even though the island, it's bigger and more bombastic, and there's definitely some stuff to make fun of, to be like how Naomi Watts looks in King Kong's hand, or how the dinosaurs look when they're trampling over one another and all this. There's zanier stuff there. But I actually feel that the first hour 20 of the movie is the most upsetting when it comes to visual effects, because it's wildly unnecessary, distracting, and just like shit eating. Because there are moments where it's like Naomi Watts as Andaro, like this actress, and it's like on this back lot, and it kind of like looks like old New York, and they've done a really good job of it, and they have some classic cars, and then it feels very Lucas insert shots of the original Star Wars trilogy, where like it cuts back and it's just a digital version of Manhattan with like 1,000 cars, and they're like, we're using the same CGI technology that he used in Lord of the Rings to make the orc army. And I'm like, yes, because you can't make an orc army because they're not real and there's tens of thousands of them, but you could just show me Naomi Watts in a human cab. And instead now I'm watching Naomi Watts through a fake window with a CGI world behind her, as then the camera pans out and shows me a Matrix level computer simulation of New York, and it's costing millions of dollars a second. And it's just kind of eating time and getting really annoying, because I'm like, I just need to see a human actor's face in front of a wall say a thing to another person. And instead, like, they're green screened, and there's like look at the road, and it's like she's getting in a cab, and 3 cabs are real, and then I can see where computer cabs start.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't. But why would you could just angle the camera down? Like, so there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like, look at Peter Jackson use the technology from Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings had purpose, and all of the New York stuff is like meaningless. Truly, and like a dinosaur is not real. You had to CGI that.
You had to CG that, and also like Skull Island's fictional, so you have to show me what it looks like. I know what New York looks like. I know what cabs look like.
Yeah.
I know you wanted to like create Times Square exactly how it looked in 1933's King Kong, and that's a cool little idea. But yeah, like it took them 18 months to render the Empire State Building, and I'm like, you could have just filmed it.
You could have
just gotten on a crane or in a helicopter.
It's the same Empire State Building.
And filmed the Empire State Building and put King Kong on there, and then it wouldn't be so shiny. It wouldn't be so Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow-y.
And even then, at least that building at the end is plot relevant.
Yes,
everything in the beginning is
like,
just,
do you want to see a whole map of New York? Like, do you want to do Spider-Man the video game where you can go anywhere in New York? Because we rendered all of it. We rendered every building.
It is just Weta Digital lighting a cigar using a burning wad of money for no particular reason. And I'm like, good for you, but why am I watching that?
Yeah.
None of this is relevant to the characters or the plot. At no point does it draw me in more.
It's such a weird meta commentary about a guy trying to make a movie for no money. And this movie is just burning it for no particular reason. They're like, we got $400 million because he just made Lord of the Rings, and we don't even know how to spend all of it.
I mean, he's trying to make it for no money because he burned all of his money too quickly, which also kind of feels like a meta commentary as well.
Maybe sometimes, as Adrian Brody does, you have to learn a lesson from your own writing.
Yes.
I know this is jumping to the end, but that part fucking killed me. Adrian Brody at the end of this movie is watching a play that he wrote and learns a lesson from it, and then goes after to try to get Naomi Watts back romantically. And it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life.
You wrote this.
You wrote this weeks, if not months ago. You've seen 18 million rehearsals of this play. You knew what this scene was about. The actress didn't like go off on a tangent and change it.
You're walking out of your own play.
I think the opening of your own play.
You jackass.
But also you shouldn't open against King Kong.
Yeah, don't open the night of King Kong's opening.
Don't open against Kong. There had to be another night. Like, you're not going to because Jack Driscoll is involved with both these productions pretty equally. I think you pace that out. So I think that's most of my like human problems
Yeah.
that I have with this film.
Okay.
My most silliest, worst writing problems.
I respect that. Well, I feel like we've unpacked that opening section enough. Let's talk about when they get to the island. How do you feel about like, the boat stuff and them being on the island?
I think the boat hitting the rocks is just like crazy unnecessary. I don't really like it. It's not dynamic or interesting. I'm never like, oh shit, a rock. So I think that's like 10 minutes you can kill right there and get rid of that. Actually on the island, I think it's really like well designed. I think it's cool. I think the tonal shift is way too dark.
It gets really dark really fast. From this the actress that Naomi Watts is playing is vaudevillian, and the movie feels vaudevillian. It feels farcical. It feels like it is Jack Black is a Nathan Lane type doing a producer's type of a scam.
Yeah, this is going to be a lighthearted romp to meet King Kong is like what 95% of the vibe of this movie is.
Yep.
And then for 10 minutes we meet this native tribe who aren't cannibals, but I guess they make sacrifices, who just like viciously attack and murder several of the crew members in wildly visceral ways.
We watch them like cave in their skulls and like just truly horrifying things.
Truly horrifying. And then like slow motion, like everyone else is being grabbed and they're all about to be killed. Like Jack Black is put on the rock and the blood from the previous guy is dripping onto his face from the mace that killed him. And it is just, and like they kind of like juxtapose it with this actual kind of interesting thing with Jamie Bell reading a book and realizing the book he's reading is a tragedy, not an adventure comedy.
Yeah.
But like,
which is, I think that is interesting,
that's
and there
really
is
cool.
a value as well to like dropping into icy waters to be like, watch how shocking a tonal shift this is. I do think that there's a value to that. And I don't think that this, again, going back to the idea of like, they're close to something and it's just not executed in a way that I enjoy.
They were really close to something. I think when you do have an icy drop in a tonal shift like this, your movie has to stay in that tone. It can't just be like, we're going to be dark for 5 minutes and then we're going to have fun CG Kong fight a dinosaur. It's like, it has to be scary and dark the whole time now. Now it has to be like a...
Because there is a difference between like, oh no, the spider's real big, and I watched a human man cave in my friend's skull today.
Yeah.
There's
a man who we gave lines to and established, because the sound guy gets speared through the chest.
And I think that might be the right level of like, shock. But then like being held down while viscerally murdered is different than like, a stegosaurus stepped on me.
A stegosaurus can step on you.
And that is obviously death, and there is a violence to it, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
And also, everyone who's killed by bugs or dinosaurs later has like chosen to try to save Naomi Watts, whereas these people sincerely think this island is empty, and then they just get viciously attacked and
murder.
like they have no chance to leave, have no chance to say no, to walk away. Yeah, it's way too dark. It's like really well done. That's what you're going for, and that obviously is what he was going for. But the movie not staying on that tone just makes it kind of like...
It feels inappropriate.
Yeah, it feels inappropriate. It feels like I would have been like, oh shit, I brought my kid. And I would have had to leave.
And it also kind of like makes just a prop out of the indigenous people of a way that I think is like kind of a little bit problematic as well, to be like, they're not the protectors, they're not warners, they are just murderers. They are just kind of like vicious, uncontrollable murderers. That,
they're just killing machines.
Yeah. Like, you shouldn't be here. And, like, we were all, as an audience, on board that, like, these people probably shouldn't be here. But then it escalates to a ridiculous degree, and then those people just kind of disappear. And so it's like, well, they had no real agency. Like, these people are just murder machines. Like, there's no difference between these human people and a gun. Like, they are one and the same.
Like, the only agency they get is that, much like Kong themselves, they instantly, I guess, are obsessed with Naomi Watts. And that's kind of their only character trait, to the point where, like, we're going to sneak on that ship. We're going to fucking do this crazy thing with a big stick.
I think they're like, Kong has a type. They know this has happened. I'm going to say flat out, this has happened before.
Well, I assume Kong always gets women sacrificed to him, and their thought process was, hey, we can save one of our own women.
Ooh, okay.
Like, I think any woman would have been kind of, we're going to take all the women. Like, if more than one woman had shown up and not just Naomi Watts, like, I feel like they would have been like, oh, great, extra women. We don't have to send one of ours.
Yeah.
That's my thought process.
I think it's also very rude that they imply that these indigenous peoples have also completely misunderstood Kong as well. That Kong is someone who's like, can I have a friend? And they're like, murder woman. Murder woman. It's like, I actually think that, like, the sacrifices are not in any way what Kong wants. And, like, I don't think Kong's like, I'll kill all of your people if you don't send me a sacrifice every now and then. I'm like, he actually is in no way appeased by these. Like, he's eating plentifully. Like, he doesn't really give a shit what these people are doing. And I also think that there's just something kind of rude about that, to be like, look at the people who live on this island. They murdered a bunch of us ruthlessly and also have completely misread their own island.
I will agree with that. I had a different read of why I think this is rude to the indigenous people. Because I actually think Kong, whether on purpose or accidentally, is killing the women that he takes. Because there's human bodies littered throughout his cave.
Sure.
As Naomi Watts sees when she gets there. So I think it's more rude and racist to be like, but he's not going to kill this white lady.
Okay.
But he likes her. But he's killed every other woman you've ever sent out here.
Yeah.
But
there's something in.
But this woman can do a pratfall and it's pretty.
And Kong's not cool about it. Yeah.
So I think Kong's not cool. And I also think it is funny that, like, I do like that later versions of Kong have been like, no, he is actually the protector of humans and we stopped the sacrifice thing.
Yeah.
But I like the idea, too, that he maybe is just accidentally killing these people because he's a giant monkey and he is like, oh, new friend. Awesome.
Oh, like, absolutely. Like, Naomi Watts' character should be dead.
Oh, there's no way she's alive. She's dead after the first 30 seconds of being taken away by Kong.
He is whipping her. He's holding her just like a barefisted and just whipping her around. The G-force of that, of like him doing a full arm swing, stopping and swinging her back down, where I'm like, you've gotten whiplash 12 times just from him shaking his arm. And then when he runs, he's pounding the ground with his fists.
That she's in.
It would be like me trying to hold a hamster for a full day and getting in UFC fights. There's no scenario where the sheer G-force of what has happened allows a creature that proportionately small to survive. It's just not possible.
It's not possible. And some of the choices being made are just blowing my mind because, like, I know Andy Serkis is doing the stop motion for Kong, but you're still willfully CGing this whiplash effect of his arm with her body in there. And you're like, no, that's fine. She's alive. No, I think that she's making it.
That'll do.
And then we're going to throw her around. He's going to knock her over because he likes her pratfalls. And I'm like, she's dead. One of these pushes. Andrew has accidentally nudged me in the kitchen and I've bruised my hip on the side of the counter. Like,
she's wrecked.
Kong pushes you into the concrete. You're over.
Done.
She is dead 1,000,000 times over. Bruises, internal bleeding, broken arms and legs. Like, I'm sorry, girl. You didn't make it.
You're wrecked. You're absolutely wrecked.
You're at least wrecked.
Yes.
Adrian Brody should have carried you off this island. Just the fact that you don't have any shoes, honestly.
Yeah, just running around alone. You didn't encounter, like, any of the bugs or other... I guess you had a small bug encounter.
She had an amazing encounter with the dinosaurs. This is my favorite part of the movie. The 3 T-Rex fight.
I agree, it was fun.
The 3 T-Rex fight was the only one that was too long, but, like, in a good way. I was like, oh, wow, you really plotted this out. She's hanging from one, like, and she's, like, hanging from the mouth of one over the mouth of another one in these vines. This is so fucking cool. I think this is really fun. At what point she hides from one and they reveal a rock is another T-Rex that's trying to eat her. I was like, this whole sequence slaps with the 3 T-Rexes.
Yes, it really does. And it is one where, despite being violent, harkens back to the first act of the movie, which is vaudevillian, where there is comedy, there is slapstick.
Yeah, she's like, swinging to get away from a T-Rex.
A T-Rex with tiny little arms, realizing that it needs to kick off from a wall because it's tangled. And watching a T-Rex repel is fucking hilarious and has tension to it. It is the exact right blend of both of those things.
Yeah, it's a wildly fun sequence. And, you know, they're T-Rexes, but, like, and also just, like, seeing Kong be able to have these advantages because he has hands of like, you can't hold on to a cliff, so bye. I'm like, okay, I see how he could beat 3 T-Rexes. All right. It does get wildly violent when he breaks their jaws off.
Yeah,
but also,
CGI violence.
But
so it's
CGI
like,
violence is way easier to handle than the
mythical
deaths
violence
of the people by the man-on-man violence.
Absolutely. And it's also one of the things that looks the best because it's entirely CGI as well, which we kind of like talked last week during Godzilla versus Kong, where it's like compositing is some of the hardest stuff to do.
Because it draws your eye to like the fake versus the real.
And it's hard to blend it and things like that. And there's some stuff where it's like this movie gets a pass for 2005, where it's like it doesn't always quite look right when she's being held by King Kong. I think King Kong itself is wildly detailed and well done. Andy Serkis does a wonderful mocap performance. The visual artists who work on it created a really well done version of King Kong. Like just the hair, the finer detail looks amazing. Her doesn't interact with the palm very well.
No.
It has, and it's kind of embarrassing that this is 2005 and it looks like the same problem that Marvel has today with the floating head problem of like you watch like Avengers Endgame and it's like Iron Man or War Machine and it's just like the shadows around the head, the neck don't interact properly and you can tell it's like you just CGI'd a thing around a person's neckline and she has that in this movie. Like it hasn't improved since then.
Yeah,
our ability to do that.
The only things that look really good is I assume they built one giant Kong hand for her to sit in. So at some points she is sitting in a hand where I'm like, that thumb looks pretty real and like reflecting light the same way your body is. So every now and then she's like caressing a big giant thumb that I think is actually there.
And I agree that works too.
That works. That's absolutely the great way to do it.
And I think that's why the T-Rex sequence works, is that it is a lot of her like running on a practical ground, being tied up in practical vines. And then when we see her composited, it's like a wide shot of her trying to like swing and kick away from a T-Rex. And everything else is a digital element that interacts with one another pretty smoothly. So like that is just like that sequence works the best where it's like we only have one human problem that we have to put into this computer scene. And it's in ways that actually kind of like work and we can work around.
Yeah, and she's also so small that when you CG her, it's like much like, and you're so far away because you're trying to show Kong and 3 dinosaurs. You're like, she's barely even there. If she wasn't blonde, you wouldn't even see her. Yeah. If she was a brunette, she'd completely fade away.
The white dress also helps it pop out on the contrast of the background.
So she's really contrasted, but if she wasn't, she'd just disappear in his palm and you wouldn't even notice. So yeah, that looks great. How do you feel? I feel like maybe we had different vibes. How did you feel about the Brontosaurus stampede?
It looks terrible.
It does look terrible.
And it's hilarious, and I love it. And I don't know if I love it for the right reasons, and if I don't know if it's meant to be the funniest thing ever put to cinema.
Okay, we do have the same vibes with the Brontosaurus stampede.
I think it's truly so funny, and I would watch it again in a heartbeat. Like, I would put it on the second we stop this episode just to be like, what is happening here? This is... It is comedy in a different way than the vaudevillian T-Rex stuff. So, like, the Brontosaurus Valley chase sequence is just like, suddenly there's like 1,000 Brontosauruses and they're all like, whoop, 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 slipping over one another.
Oh, sorry, Phil. Oh, Steve, get out of the way. What to do?
And the Velociraptors never stop trying to chase, even though they could be eating Brontosaurus.
Several Brontosaurus have gone down.
They're in between the legs trying to get. I think it's the
when Adrian Brody like side checks a Velociraptor in the middle of a stampede of Brontosaurus.
He karate kicks one of them as well.
Yeah, he does. I don't know why the body check was more funny to me.
Yeah, because no, you
you just got eaten by a Velociraptor, sir. But yeah, it's so funny. And yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's intentional because running between the legs looks terrible. None of it looks real. The legs don't match the humans. It's like they would have been crushed. Like they haven't spaced out the humans in a way where you believe they are avoiding.
Oh yeah, the spacing makes no sense at all.
The spacing's terrible. I'm also like, hey, Brontosaurus, do you actually like live here or not? You don't seem to know the trails very well. Like I feel like you should like know exactly where you're going to go to get rid of the Velociraptors. Like you'd have a plan. So I don't like that. But yeah, at the end when like the Brontosaurus just start tripping over each other and are this huge mass of giant dinosaurs just like stuck upside down, entangled together, it is one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, but the humans somehow slip out from underneath the
They
brontosauruses.
They act like the brontosauruses are oily. Like they're greasy or something. Like they're all covered in a slime. And if you touch them, you'll just
just
go right
get
off.
out of there. Yeah. And none of the scale makes any sense at all because there are times where the valley is about 4 humans wide. So it's like one human is touching the side, then it's shoulder to shoulder to shoulder, and then the other human is touching the side. And then somehow 2 brontosauruses manage to excuse me, and slip past them somehow.
If I could just scooch.
And a velociraptor, and I'm like, how big or not big is this? None of the scaling makes sense.
A brontosaurus can squeeze its legs together, and then the top is out of the valley with a big ass body, I guess.
Sure,
it's a big,
but
big
the legs
top
are
bobby.
So it's just but it's very funny. It's very silly. It's definitely it's silly. A bunch of people die. And the violence feels silly again.
Yeah, it does.
It feels silly.
Yeah, they say at the end that 17 people died on the expedition altogether.
Yeah.
Now, here, let me throw this at you, which I think is a missed opportunity on Jack Black's part. I'm very curious, and it's a King Kong movie, so I know the real reason. But I'm like, man, why didn't you bring a dinosaur home?
You could have done anything.
I've seen apes.
Yeah.
I've never seen a dinosaur. You could have Jurassic Parked this fucking thing.
Absolutely.
I know he's a really big ape. But I think you bring a small dinosaur.
One
just
velociraptor.
As cool.
One velociraptor. Any of the bugs.
Oh shit! A giant centipede.
Any of it. Yeah.
Big mosquito.
Whole exhibit. You could create Jurassic Park, frankly.
Yeah.
You could also.
You had cages that fit the things.
Yeah.
Those things.
A bunch of cages.
Yeah. You had a bunch of cages, but you're like Kong.
Mm-hmm. Singularly focused. He's an idiot, or his hubris is his problem. He gets singularly focused and cannot figure out what else to do. So yeah, I agree though. Anything else would have been good. Anything else would have been good. I think one thing that I do want to talk about on just the visual effects department in terms of one thing that makes this movie look really bad, which I think that is a simple problem, and the speed of production is what fucked it up. Because, we've seen Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Jackson
many times
knows what he's doing in terms of visual effects and how to incorporate it in storytelling and doing that. But everything that you see is like a featurette or a behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings. I would say meticulous is what I would use to describe the making of it. From the visual effects of using forced perspective to figure out how to have Gandalf in this Hobbit home in Hobbiton next to the hobbits, and how do we have a moving table and chairs that work with the camera lens, and then we use computers when we need to use computers, but we're meticulous about every step of the production. And one thing that makes this movie look so bad is the lighting. Is that the lighting is never where the sun is, and even if you don't consciously know that about filmmaking, it's part of an uncanny valley thing. There is a part of your brain that's this isn't real and I don't like it. Where it would be scenes where it's Naomi Watts is there and the sun is hitting the left side of her face and shadows are on the right side of her face. And the whole world in the background has the sun hitting rocks on the right side and shadows on the left side. And it's like watching Two-Face or something, or a werewolf transform. There's a lizard part of our brains that are this isn't, something's wrong and I don't like it. So whether or not you consciously observe it, it's something that just makes everything kind of shitty. And it's not a computer detail like Weta effects that when making the world and being what does this jungle look like, made a jungle that looks great. And the people in the studio lighting Naomi Watts or Adrian Brody lit them in a way that's this is how we're going to light them and it looks great. And there just wasn't a conversation between the two that made it right.
The direction that we're going from.
Yeah, it didn't have that meticulous, let's make sure we're all on the same page. It didn't have that Lord of the Rings. It had a the Hobbit production schedule.
Oh, the Hobbit, no.
Trying to accomplish a Lord of the Rings type of thing. And that's where I feel the visuals of some of the green screen stuff are off on this movie.
You know what? It's so weird about my feelings right now, because as much as I haven't been enjoying this movie and been finding faults, I love Peter Jackson so much for what he did on Lord of the Rings that I'm like, I bet that was purposeful so this weird magic island felt a little unsettling. in a subtle way that you couldn't put your finger on. But I'm like, no, that probably was just a lack of communication.
Yeah, Manhattan also had the same problems.
Yeah. No, I didn't notice it specifically, but like I did, like there were scenes that were like too bright, but like they weren't at the same time. And I was like, why doesn't this look right? Is it just because you're so blonde?
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
Yeah. And like, yeah, there's some stuff where it's like they didn't move the lights around Naomi Watts, where it's like she's being held by King Kong and she has light on the left side of her body when she was being filmed. And King Kong spins around, does a 360. And because King Kong is digital and the sun is digital, the sun moves around King Kong. Like you see the sun wrap around, like his left side of his face is lit and his right side and then back to his left side. And Naomi Watts is lit from the left side the whole time, even as she's being moved around the environment.
Never would have happened on Lord of the Rings.
And yeah, like it's just one of those things where it's like the attention to detail would have happened on his previous production.
No, it definitely would have. Because in Lord of the Rings, like Merry and Pippin spend like most of a movie in Treebeard's hands, and they built the hands, and then they just filmed them in the hands. And like I've never once had an uncanny valley moment in those scenes, even though there's a giant talking tree in it. Yeah, I've been like, no, that's all.
They're in there.
All matches up.
They're in there, or like matches up close enough. Like, yeah. So that's just a little thing that bothered me about this movie, where I'm like, a little attention to detail is missing.
Little attention to detail. Is it really dumb of me that I didn't really know this movie was a tragedy at the end and King Kong died?
Oh, I see.
I think because the modern Kongs we've been watching are very much like he protects humanity. We're trying to find him a family. We learned sign language so we can talk to him. I hadn't really clocked how original King Kong movies ended. And maybe I was thinking of that one Simpsons one where he goes off in a boat at the end.
Okay,
and I was like, I guess that's how King Kong ends.
I think maybe similar to when we watched Poltergeist, that you've pulled it from the Simpsons, because Poltergeist was a film I pulled from the Simpsons. More than the actual movie itself. So I can understand that, yeah. And
when Kong died at the end, I was like, this movie fucking sucks. This is like if Homeward Bound had the dogs die before they got home.
Yeah. I think that like it hammers home the lesson, which definitely was more important at the time, which was like, don't do this and we're bad.
Yeah. We're bad.
We're bad. So I think it hammers home that lesson a little bit harder, which I kind of respect. But it's definitely tragic, and we've turned him into, or like modern reincarnations, especially ones that have combined him with Godzilla, have turned him into a Godzilla type, where it's like he represents something that is protecting and doesn't represent us just ruining the environment.
Yeah. Oh, us ruining the environment.
Yeah, or ruining nature in some regard.
Yeah, because, we took nature and then he didn't have anywhere to go and we had no choice but to kill him. There was like an interesting parallel, and this was another thing where like it's like so close to saying something, as you said, or like getting a point across and not quite landing it. Because like when he gets to New York and he's like attacked over and over again, I was just like, for a few minutes, I couldn't help but thinking that I was like, this is what it felt to be like. This is what it felt like to be Naomi Watts on Skull Island.
Oh, okay.
Everything that saw her tried to kill her. And I was like, so it's not that foreign a world in a way? And there's almost something interesting to say about that, of like, yes, humanity doesn't attack each other on sight, but we attack things that aren't us. And when you're on Skull Island, if you're a human, everything attacks you.
That's an interesting perspective, yeah.
But Kong always protects her. But he kills humans, no problem.
He does kill plenty of humans,
Everyone that isn't her,
no
he's
problem.
like, get the fuck out of my way. So he's not really a protector of humanity in this.
No, he just kind of likes her a little bit. Yeah, she has value to him for entertainment's sake. And I think that that's just it.
Yeah, but like when he gets shot by the planes, I was like, this feels like less of an injury than when you fought 3 T-Rexes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like you've taken enough of a blow yet. Then again, I also feel
like... The fall, I think, is what did a lot of it.
The fall, but, like, I didn't think he should have fallen yet.
I understand.
Then again, I also feel like maybe he was, like, drugged and underfed for several weeks at this point.
Oh, he clearly was a little fucked and sedated.
He was messed up. Because also, I'm so mad that this movie's 3 hours long and they just cut out the several week part about how we got Kong to New York. I'm furious. I was like, you didn't. You absolutely did not. That little boat?
You absolutely didn't.
17 men dead?
No.
What'd you feed them?
What did you do?
What did you feed
How
this
much
monkey?
chloroform were you just hucking at him down in the gallows?
Just pouring it into his mouth.
Yes.
You know what? Naomi Watts at no point freed Kong on that boat?
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah,
would.
she did. She did.
So
and
that's
also
mad.
Naomi Watts, I understand that you were nice to him and have personified him. But there are moments where I'm like, I don't think you understand the severity of the situation.
No, because at certain points it's like, he's down, leave him alone. But like before he gets shot with like the spear gun, he has killed like 5 guys in a row. And Naomi's like, no, don't shoot him with the spear gun. I'm like, no, you gotta shoot him with the spear gun, girl.
If you don't shoot him with the spear gun, he is literally murdering every human man that is. At this point, this isn't about getting him to a show. Like, you don't even know that that's what the producer's trying to do. Mm-hmm. This is about you are willing to watch the 16 men next to you all be squished to death so that Kong can have a nice time. And all of these men have done way more than they needed to do.
Every single one of these men, there is a weird, it's not reverse sexism. It's sexism in your favor kind of happening, where I think if a man was missing, they would not have done any of this. This is a real women and children first into the lifeboats of like men, I think, being like, took our one woman, we gotta get her back. But every single one of these men is like, no one even argues that we have to go save Naomi Watts. They're all fully in.
Yeah.
And they act like the actor guy's a coward, and he's fully on board. He comes back again and saves them a second time.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end, Adrian Brody rolls his eyes like, this fucking coward. I'm like,
I
he's
hate
not.
this guy.
He's actually wildly brave.
He did almost as much as you.
Yeah, you did 10% more than every other man on the thing.
Yeah.
And like some of them died, and they would have gone with you to the rest of the way.
It all that happened was it reached a point after the 3rd attempt where the actor was like, okay, I have now watched 24 people be viciously murdered in front of me trying to rescue this woman who we have no proof of life of. I think we should turn around. And Adrian Brody's like, you're such a shit.
Well, also, the captain said he was going to leave in 24 hours. And the actor guy was like, okay, we only have 9 hours left. We have to go back.
Yeah.
So he was fully like, yes, of course you do.
He was right.
He was right.
He was right.
He was very vilified. But yeah, every man is just every single one of these dudes is a fucking hero. I'm very mad that Jamie Bell just disappears, by the way.
Yeah, who is awesome and
He's
really
awesome
like
in
shines
this.
on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jamie Bell shines and is fantastic. The actor is also, when he swings in and shoots a bunch of spiders on a swing, awesome. If he didn't leave and go get backup and come back, you would be dead. Like, you owe this man your life. You should be brothers for life.
Yeah, when he walked out on stage, Adrian Brody should have been like, "Oh yeah, that guy does deserve this. He deserves a little break to be in a little show."
I'm gonna write a play for him as well because this is my fucking dude.
He should be a ride or die.
Yeah,
he should be a ride or die.
Should absolutely ride or die. Yeah. These men have done so much.
So much
And
Naomi
they didn't
Watts
need to do.
is like thankful because I will say, while they're trying to get away from Kong, she's trying to get away from them because she's like, he wants me, and she's trying to save these guys in that way.
Yeah.
But like, you still got to be like, but he's killing these guys.
He's killing these guys.
he's murdering everybody.
Yes. And I think the last thing that I do want to say about this movie is the fact that like the theme doesn't hold true. Like the movie ending with like the I think the original line of to be like, it was beauty that killed the beast. In no way.
No, not in any.
He didn't come here for her.
Yeah,
he wasn't looking for her.
If he had swum across the ocean to get her, then sure, maybe.
If he had busted loose from his chains to get her, like he was kind of looking for her, but he busted loose because he was upset and distraught by camera flashes. He wasn't looking through the crowd for her. Like he kind of was like, if she's around, I'm into it.
I'd like to see her. She was nice to me.
It was mostly captivity and bullets that killed the beast.
Bullets, gravity,
captivity, animal abuse.
The army, capitalism.
Yeah.
A lot of things. Not beauty.
No.
So it's weird to end your movie on a line that's like I know you love the original King Kong, Peter Jackson, that's why you made this, but it's like you gotta like read your own room.
Yeah.
What's your room saying about?
Yeah. What is this one about? Because I think like most of it was about how how we treat animal life and abuse and animal abuse as well. Like it even opens on like look at this shitty dilapidated zoo and how we abuse these animals. We're going to continue that cycle, and we shouldn't be doing that. And the boat captain is someone who smuggles animals, and the documentarian is someone who's trying to profit off of animals. And then at the end, but pretty women can stop abusers, maybe, is still the point, which
I feel like
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. I feel like the updated version of this movie probably should have been like the exact same. Jack Black nods sagely and says, "It wasn't the bullets. It was beauty that killed the beast." And then I think Naomi Watts probably should have slapped him.
Yeah.
Probably should have been like, "You asshole.
It was you.
You hauled him here. You brought him here against his will. You shot him full of bullets.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to be here."
But also, what a weirdly kind of in character thing for the absolute shitty producer to say, to be like, I know whose fault this was. The woman's for being too pretty. Now, so it wasn't you for chaining him to a Broadway stage?
Dear lawyers, dear police, dear insurance investigators, it was Naomi Watts' fault.
Arrest that woman!
She's too beautiful!
She made him go mad with her gazongas! What are you talking about? You chained him to a Broadway stage.
I do think this will be his defense in court.
I think so. Yeah. What a bananas, man. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might be getting your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It's a very important free way to support the show so that we keep growing and expanding and finding new friends and fans.
We love friends and fans. It helps us in the charts and on our hearts. So yeah, wherever you're listening, you can probably leave us a 5-star review. That will help us so much. Leave a review for other podcasters, the other podcasts you love while you're there, because it makes you feel nice. And once you got a flow going, it's like really easy. You got the app open, you're hitting 5.
Hit that 5. Get a flow going. You love to see it.
You'll feel good. Every podcaster you like is going to see that and be like, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, baby. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly or yearly subscription service, depending on how you want to do it, where you get cool bonuses, and also you support this show and this network and make sure that this is our full-time job and that we keep doing this forever. And you can chip in as little as $1 a month if that's in your budget. Those add up and make a huge difference. And with $1 a month, you get our webcomic early. At $3 a month, you get the webcomic early, and you also get the episodes of the podcast early and ad-free. So if you find the ads pesky or annoying and you want to get these episodes without those, or if you want them a little bit earlier than the public, which is awesome when we talk about new stuff, you get that at $3 a month. At $10 a month, you get all of the other benefits, plus you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month, an exclusive bonus episode. And the one that we are doing this month is Shin Godzilla. So if you want to hear more kaiju creature talk, we're going to be posting that. That'll either be up right now or, if not, very shortly over on the Patreon page.
Yeah, so we're doing monsters. We did Godzilla v. Kong. Now we're doing King Kong. Then we're doing Shin Godzilla on the Patreon. We got monsters everywhere for you.
Everywhere you look. So head on over, check out the different levels, check out your options. Head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And thank you to all of our current and future patrons for your support.
Thank you so much, patrons. You help us keep the lights on, feed our dog, keep us happy. You're wonderful, and we love you.
Huzzah! And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change, Diana? What would you change?
It's gotta be shorter, and I think there's just so many sequences you don't need. Like I said, you don't need, I think, the boat on the rocks. But also, I'm just gonna shorten this entire opening. I don't think you need to be a filmmaker who's not even looking for a giant monkey. I think that's super dumb. I think that's like no one here was here to get a monkey. It's ridiculous that you got a monkey. So you're actually like you are explorers, and then Naomi Watts is like just part of the team. You brought one beautiful woman, not just to be an actress and a beautiful woman. She actually has some kind of job here. She's your assistant, your secretary. She's also a researcher. I don't care. So you are actually looking. You're just explorers, and you brought film equipment to film it like as a documentary style of we found an unexplored island. We have this cool map. I think that's going to make it much faster. Maybe you all even know each other already. Let's just get on this goddamn boat and get to King Kong, because that's all I care about. I don't care about any of the rest of the stuff that happens. So yeah, you're just, Jack Black is like a documentary filmmaker who found a map, hired a bunch of actual explorers to help him find this place and record it. And that's why you're there. And then pretty much all the same stuff happens, except like I cut out some sequences that are too long. And like the end is just shorter and less longing looks at Naomi Watts. We could really get there faster.
Yeah. There's a lot of longing looks from Naomi Watts.
I know she's so beautiful. And like King Kong really likes to look at her, but we gotta move. So yeah, I'm really just gonna shorten it up, tighten it up, and then like the middle's pretty fun. Please don't viciously murder those people like that. But the middle part with T-Rexes and dinosaurs and brontosauruses falling over each other, that's fun. Just keep it. Mostly keep the middle of this movie. Those are my big changes for King Kong 2005. Andrew, what would you change?
I love it. I'm 1,000% on board for that. And I have a pretty similar thing where it's just like, we've got to get to this island earlier. I think that it should be just like, we start with the theater closing. And she's like, where can I get work? And the director of the old production is like, hey, there's this shady guy. He makes movies. He does pay, but he pays late. Go check him out. And then boom, we're on the boat and we're just fucking going. And he's trying to make a story about, explorers, and is like, we're just going to go do it at this place. So we're going to go explore. And yeah, I think that we just kind of like get there faster. And my main thing is just that the locals who live there also don't viciously murder. That's my other big change.
Really big change.
Yeah.
We gotta double down on that one.
Yeah.
Really rude.
Yeah, really rude. So yeah, just pretty much exactly what you said. That's my change for this one.
I love it. I think when we're on board with the same change, it's like, well, that's clearly what needed to change.
That's clearly what the problem was. Yeah.
Because we don't check our changes beforehand with each other, you guys.
No.
I don't know if you know that after all these years.
No.
They're a surprise to each other.
And then cut out some of the unnecessary CGI. And I also don't like the stylized slow motion sequences where it's like choppy slow motion. It's slow motion that wasn't filmed in slow motion. It was slowed down later, and it's like it doesn't do anything for me. So get rid of that.
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So that's it. I think it's an obvious change on this one. But we've changed it. We've done it.
It's been changed.
It's been
Sorry,
changed.
Pete. We changed it.
And next week on the podcast, we are going to be back, and we're going to be talking about the Fallout television show.
Ooh,
So
new show.
The Amazon Prime original series Fallout, we'll be talking about that next week on the podcast. And as well, if you were in the Ottawa area, I will remind you that I'm going to be performing in Ottawa on April 26th and 27th at the Laugh Lounge. So please come on out if you're within the area of Ottawa. Laugh Lounge, April 26th. 27th. You can find me there, and you can find me online at Instagram and most places at Ivimey, Ivimey.
And just a reminder, my book is coming out in November. You can pre-order it from superheroes.com/sexlives, and you can find me, where you can find me, Words of Diana on Tumblr and Twitter, yes, and Pics of Diana, Threads, and Instagram.
Perfect. And we'll talk to y'all next week. You can find all of our stuff at From Superheroes on most social media and FromSuperheroes.com for all of our great podcasts and other stuff, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.